Welcome to For Your Information, a weekly program that examines issues facing family radio listeners like you in the greater Chicago area. Each week, this program airs interviews with people from Chicagoland, people who represent organizations offering important services in the WJCH listening area. Your host is Virginia Beehn, who now introduces today's guest.
Many within our listening audience are either organists or love to hear organ music. Today we're going to give you a special treat as we talk with George Tarasuk, who is the Dean of the Southwest Chapter of the American Guild of Organists. Also, he is an organist and choirmaster for the Episcopal Church of the Transfiguration in Palos Park. Welcome to the program, George.
Hi, thanks for having me, Virginia.
Tell me a little bit about what the Southwest Suburban Chapter is of the American Guild of Organists. What do you folks do there?
Well, I thought I would tell you a little bit about the Guild in general. The American Guild of Organists is a national professional association. It serves the organ and choral music fields. Its purpose is to maintain high musical standards and promote understanding and appreciation of the organ and of its music. It serves about 20,000 members in 343 local chapters throughout the United States and abroad. Our chapter has roughly 25 members from all Christian denominations. Our most popular events include the member recitals, such as the one that we're hosting on October the 19th. Though I think what probably differentiates our chapter from others is its emphasis on education and professional development of church musicians. This includes workshops, master classes. We bring in professional organists. Usually these are college, university professors, and they lead us through technique, better, a particular repertoire, how one might better interpret the music, let's say a J.S. Bach or the French Romantic School or even a gospel tune for that matter. We have organ crawls, technology workshops, organ and choral music reading sessions. This year we're even hosting a spiritual retreat during Lent.
Is there any level of expertise an organist must have before he or she joins your guild?
Oh, that's a good question. Most of the musicians we have in the chapter have a degree, let's say, in music, but not everybody. There are many organists, and let me just say that they're not even always organists, but musicians that are playing in churches that are looking for ways to better their technique if they're playing on an organ. They may not have professional training from a university, and that's okay because we welcome everybody, and I think that's why we probably focus on the educational component in our chapter.
Now, when you're talking about the educational part of the guild, who teaches these classes? Are these college professors all the time anyway?
Not always. A few members of the guild, for example, one of my first professor is actually a former dean of the chapter. His name is Mark Downey. He does teach at St. Xavier. He teaches music at a Prairie State, and he also teaches at a high school, Thornton Fractional, I believe. He's a fantastic resource right within the guild, and this coming spring he's going to be giving us an organ reading session, so he'll bring in a number of pieces, give us a display of how they sound, how to play them. So he's typically someone that we use right within the chapter to lead our workshops.
Where are the educational sessions generally held? Certainly you must have an organ available.
Right. We have typically within any of our members, it's usually at one of their churches.
Does it go from church to church sometimes?
Yeah, we try to keep it not at the same church all the time, because our members, while traditionally we were the Joliet Guild, because our region really is much wider than that of Joliet. That's why we changed the name, actually, to Southwest Suburban. So we would like to, this year, have additional events that are taking place in Lamont, Lockport, and at my church in Palos Park as well.
Are there similar guilds around Chicago that might serve, say, for instance, the northern suburbs?
Right. There's a North Shore chapter, a Chicago chapter, and another big and growing chapter is the Fox Valley, which is the Western Suburban chapter.
If someone from those areas would like to get in touch with their own guild but doesn't really know how to find them, could they give you a phone call for a referral? And if so, what is your number?
Okay. My day phone is 312-814-3916.
Would you repeat that?
Sure. It's 312-814-3916. They could also go to the Guild's national website, which is www.agohq.org, for a full listing of chapters in the country.
Do those initials stand for something to help us remember?
Right. AGOHQ stands for American Guild of Organists Headquarters. agohq.org.
That seems pretty easy to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Well, George, you were talking about an organ spectacular that is coming up next week, and I do want to cover that somewhat in depth a little later in the program. But if someone says, hey, that sounds really interesting, can they call that same 312-814-3916 number for more information? They
definitely can. The event itself will be occurring at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, and that's at 1500 South Briggs in Lockport, Illinois. And they can call me, or if they want specific information, let's say how to get to the church, they can call that church at 815-838-1832.
Let me have that phone number again, too, please.
Sure thing. It's 815-838-1832.
Going back for a few moments to the Guild itself, how long has the American Guild of Organists been in existence, and how did it begin?
The Guild goes back, I believe, to 1896.
Wow.
Its actual origins, I'm not exactly sure. Probably began somewhere on the East Coast.
How did you yourself become involved with the Guild?
Well, I became involved. I mentioned a former professor of mine, Mark Downey. At the time I was taking lessons from him, he was the dean of the chapter some 20 years ago. And when I graduated from college, I wanted to continue being connected with my colleagues and learning more about the instrument. And so I decided to become a member.
Are there monthly meetings of the Guild?
We have meetings probably, we have a planning meeting where our board gets together to decide the coming year. And we have about roughly 5 events every year. This is our big one this year in October, but then we have other events in January, February, March, and May.
Sounds like a good way to spend the winter, going from concert to concert.
Yes, it does. we pick very cold months where it's desirable to spend the time inside.
When you have one of these concerts, do you ever serve light refreshments?
That's one of our hallmarks, actually. We have refreshments usually at every event that we have. Fellowship is always an important component at an American Guild of Organists event.